brain coach. Literally, will you share with everyone, though, your own journey to self-worth, right? For self-worth to where you are
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, that's been quite of a journey. It's still in progress, like all of us. My inspiration really was my desperation. Some of the people watching might have seen me on stage where I do these demonstrations where maybe I'll memorize 100 people's names in an audience or do something like that. But I always tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible. Because the truth is, every single person watching this, they could do that and a whole lot more. And we just weren't taught. The reason I know it's possible is because when I was 5 years old, I was in kindergarten class and I had an unfortunate accident. I went headfirst into a radiator, kind of a big drop. And because of it, I had this traumatic brain injury that I had learning difficulties. And I had poor focus, a poor memory. I would have these migraines at 5, 6, 7 every single day of my life. And I just thought it was normal. I had these balance sensory issues. It took me 3 years longer just to learn how to read. And that was very embarrassing also. Talk about self-worth. And my superpower back in school was like shrinking down and being invisible because I never wanted to be called on. I never knew the answers. When I was 9 years old, I remember I was in class and I was being teased pretty harshly more than any other particular day because I was slowing down the class. And that was very embarrassing. Really, my self-worth was definitely taking a hit that day. And a teacher came to my defense. She pointed to me in front of the whole class and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain." And all I remember from that was that label that I was broken because I didn't know that before. And so that became my identity, a big part of it. Every single time I did not well in school, which was all the time, I would say, "Oh, because I'm broken." Every time I wasn't picked for sports, which was all the time, always the last one that had to go, who was left. I would say I was because I had the broken brain. And so, it turns out better, over time. But I just want to remind people going through struggles that your struggles can become your strengths. My two biggest challenges growing up were learning, and because of it, public speaking. And life has a sense of humor. God has a sense of humor. That's all I do, right? All I do is public speak on this thing called learning. And I was very fortunate for going through what I went through because I think adversity can become an advantage. That if someone's struggling right now, that struggle leads to strength, that challenge leads to change. And my heart goes out to you if you're struggling. And I want to just remind you, you inspire people with your grit and your grace.
So beautiful. In Worthy, in the book Worthy, we talk about removing disempowering labels that
Yeah.
others or ourselves have put on us. And when you talk about the label, the boy with the broken brain, to now being literally one of the most celebrated experts and brain coaches in the entire world, not only by like top experts, but also celebrities. I mean, so many people go to you for this. Can you talk about how labels are not permanent and how we can remove them, and how did you do that in your life, right? To go from something you were labeled the boy with the broken brain to literally being one of the most sought after, not only keynote speakers, but New York Times bestselling author, but also just expert brain coaches in the world.
Yeah. I would say that certainly that label came my limit for a number of reasons. I created a new label for myself recently after I read your book, and it's Worthy. And I actually, because I'm the memory speed reading, brain optimization guy, I created a simple mnemonic after I read it. If it's okay, I'll share it with everybody here. Kind of little memory aid for some of the things that worked, for me that I distilled from your book and also my personal life experience. So you could take the word worthy. We could just make it an acronym. All right. So everybody has worthy. You could write this down if you like. I know a lot of people are taking notes. The W is really wellness. And I really think that good mental health starts with good brain health. And I want to remind everybody here, wellness is not just meditation, exercise, diet, sleep, and so on. Wellness could be just resting. Like you have permission to rest. I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but you are not responsible for fixing everything that is broken. You do not have to try and make everyone happy. And remember to take time for you to recharge and replenish, and that self-love, is not selfish. And a reminder because I was interesting in the conversation with Matthew that I want to remind people that no amount of love from others is enough to fill the yearning that your soul requires from you.
Mm.
Right. So we have to work daily on being in love with the person in the mirror that's been through so much, but is really, but is still standing, and the moment you start feeling, worthy, you start generating like wealth in every area of your life because self-worth, like self-respect, self-esteem starts with the word self, and you can't find it in anybody else. The O in worthy is openness. And what do I mean by that? I think your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So sometimes we could focus more on being ourselves and growing ourselves that you don't have time for that self-judgment. But in those moments when you start judging yourself, I would just take a pause and take a breath and instead just observe yourself instead. Because the former leads to self-doubt, but the latter really leads to self-awareness and self-improvement. So, replacing that judgment with curiosity, because we don't know what we don't know, right? Even with my story, you might not see it today or tomorrow, but so many of us, and it's my wish for everyone here, that you'll look back a few years from now and be absolutely perplexed and maybe in awe on how every little thing added up and brought you somewhere wonderful where you always wanted to be, that you might be grateful for the things that didn't work out, the way you once wanted them to. The R, and I'll go through those fast, is resilience. You study some of the most successful individuals, and you have many here. The size of the challenge really determines the size of the champion, right? And who knows, right? You do the work. You might not see it today or tomorrow, but you may look back a few years from now, absolutely perplexed, that everything brought you to this place. And I think that life is hard for two reasons. Either you're leaving your comfort zone, or life is difficult because you're staying in your comfort zone. Right. And the comfort zone is a nice place to visit, but not much grows there. It's kind of like a butterfly, right? Though the beauty might be in the butterfly, the growth is happening in the cocoon. And it's that struggle to free ourselves that make us more whole, and it gives us strength. And even if you feel like you don't have, like maybe you have 40%, on the days you only have 40%, but you give 40%, then you give 100%, right? And so I think that part of it in terms of building resilience is so very important. And then finally, the T is our thoughts. Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your thoughts are the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not worthy, or you say, in my case, like you're not good with remembering names, you won't remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your computer not to. And so part of like this, my thoughts is so many people have fear around making mistakes. And no matter your age, many people are paralyzed by this thought of looking bad. And I think mistakes, as a reminder to everybody, is just proof that we're trying. And when you learn from them, they have the power to turn you into something better than you were before. Also remember, you are not your mistakes. When you make a mistake, keep in mind it doesn't have anything to do with your self-worth. Many people who make a mistake and think that, but no one is perfect, and that's okay. You make mistakes, and mistakes don't make you.
Mm.
And then finally, the last two things, healthy connections. That's what this firm so much is about, right? It's not just your neurological connections or your biological connections. It's your social network that you have. And we all need people to encourage us, to challenge us, to cheerlead for us. And if you haven't found that person yet, be that person for somebody else, especially be that person for you. And then the U in worthy just stands for you. You matter. Just a quick reminder in case your mind is playing tricks on you today, that you matter, that you're enough, that your presence in the world makes a difference, whether you see it or not. You can always improve and be better, but remember, you are enough, not just because you did something or you said something or you bought something or thought something or became or created something special, but because you always were. Right. And life might be maybe understood, backwards, but it must be lived forward. So you do the best you can with what you have, and it will absolutely be enough, because there is a world that exists solely because you exist. And it wouldn't be the same without you. We grow by coming together, by stretching ourselves and exploring the wondrous possibilities, that lies beyond our current visions and abilities and understandings. And your today is more powerful than all your yesterdays combined. And so, when you're talking about dimming lights, don't let anyone dim your light just because it's shining in their eyes. There's no reason to play small nowadays, so others could, that you love even can feel big. We be an example for them. And so I just want to say thank you so much for this day that you gifted so many of us. And I just want to remind everyone, if you're struggling right now, doubting how much further you could go, just remember how far you've already come, and you honor and inspire people around you, with your grit and your grace, and you are worthy.
Woo!